Okay, good evening. We are now at 6:30. I am going to call the meeting to order, and we will stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. All right, thank you. We don't have any agenda adjustments tonight. I don't have any. Does the board have any? No. Okay. We will move on to number 2, our public comment section, where we invite you to come up to the microphone and provide your comments or feedback to us. Please make sure that you provide your name and the town that you're from. We ask that you do not provide any teacher or student names. And just want to give a quick reminder that during this public comment time, it is not a Q&A. However, I want to assure you that we are taking in any comments that you have, and we will take them back and discuss them accordingly. Thank you.
Oh, you can pull it up. No.
That one.
Oh, it's that one.
I gave you guys the comfy ones.
Oh, it's not nice.
We want everybody to be comfortable.
Okay, is this thing working? Hi, I'm Patty Vashon. I'm from Litchfield. I have 5 kids in the district. Let me try myself. Composed. Anyway, I made notes. I'm here tonight because I have just some issues. One of them just kind of been over the years. But our pickup drop-off prior to COVID used to be parents would park. We'd bring our kids in up to the door. They'd get buzzed in, and we'd be on our way, and they'd be on their way. And then pickup, we would be buzzed in. We would go to the office. We'd sign the kids out. We'd go to the lobby, and we would talk with all the other parents. And we would... It was good because we got to know the parents, the kids. We met, all the administrators. We saw teachers in the hallway. It was a good thing. Sorry. And then COVID happened, and so, of course, we're all out of the building. And when we were, the kids were welcome back, the parents, we were still stuck outside, which I just hate so much. So anyway, we're stuck outside. We don't talk to anybody because we're all lined up. I don't know anybody's kids' parents anymore. It's frustrating. And I asked, I think maybe last year, I'm not sure, but I had asked, why can't we go back to that? And I got, it's a safety concern. Letting the parents in apparently is a safety concern. I don't understand it. I think it's BS. I think that it's a good thing to have the parents in the schools. I think the parents have more of a relationship with the staff. The secretaries would know your little babies as they grew up and went into the school. And there's just none of that anymore. We're very disconnected. So that's a big issue for me. I wish we could just go back to the way it was. I don't understand why us being outside, it's not efficient. There was never any traffic issues prior to that. We would go in, it was easy. There was never any traffic issues. Now it's insanity. And for people like me many people have multiple kids in multiple schools, and to get from one to the other without being at the end of both lines, you have to get there really early to be at the front. And then it's such a waste of my day. My girls' bus ride would be up to an hour. It's just too long for them. My middle schoolers and high schooler took the bus, but for my little ones, I've always picked them up and dropped them off. So it's just not doable for me to have them take the bus. I just feel like it's way too long. So I sacrifice, and I'm in line for 2 hours a day. So this brings me to my second thing, is that through the years, we've been able to have our kids take a bus from one school to another to get off so that the parent can just pick up at one school. And I did that with my daughter the end of last year. And for whatever reason, this year it's not safe. So we're not allowing that this year. I don't understand it. I feel like us parents hit a wall every year. It's always something new. This was something that, I guess I just don't understand what the issue is. I would be there at pickup. I'm not expecting teachers to babysit my kid. It's just so that I can go to one place instead of having to go to two and spending 2 hours when I could spend probably 15 minutes, because I live 8 minutes from school, to do all of that. But now it's like, okay, I'm stuck in this routine. Like, there's no help. There's nobody that's willing to fix anything, change anything. Sorry, that's the rule now. Sucks to be you. And that's how I feel about that. So I feel like when the district decided to send first and second graders to Sabattis and pre-K and K to Litchfield, that's when your budget stopped passing for you guys. It really is, because that decision was made without asking the parents how they felt about it. You guys didn't ask the teachers how they felt about it. You guys just did it, and you did it in the middle of COVID. When the kids were already dealing with that, you were like, they're resilient. We'll just switch everything up. Well, that was super inconvenient for all the parents, because now you've got kids that would be in the same school because they're only, a couple grades apart, that are now in completely different towns. And now you have all these busing issues that you never had before, because now you got to get these kids to this town and these kids way over here, and then it's a shit show. And I don't see like any improvement, because nothing changes. It just seems to get worse. What else did I want to say? So this is kind of on topic / off topic, but I've sent 2 different emails over the last few weeks to different administrators for completely different reasons. When I received one a few weeks ago, I was kind of like, that's really like so perfect of a response, that I was kind of like, I wonder if that's just an AI response, brushed it off. But then today, I had an issue with the buses. And I sent an email in hopes to get somebody to help me. And I got back a very, very similar response. And so I ran them through an AI detector. And both of them came back as 100% AI generated. And that's very frustrating. To test this, I did send some other emails that I felt were pretty sincere, and those all came back at 0%. So I believe that those are computer generated responses. Like, I got the big middle finger today. Like, you're not even worth a response. I'm just gonna send you to a computer. Oh, you guys, it's so frustrating. Anyway, so yeah, I'm disappointed in that. I confronted one of the administrators about the email. They did admit that that they put it through an AI software or something, apparently for spell check or whatever, which I call BS on, because we all have spell check on our computers, so I'm not buying that as a response. I wasn't important today. My kid wasn't important today. It's how I take that. So with that, I feel like I get why these teachers left. They felt unheard. I felt unheard today. We lost good teachers because of our administration. They don't care how they make other people feel. They're just going to do whatever they want, and you either like it or you don't, but nothing's going to change. And that's how I felt today. Like, I knew I had called to talk about the issue, and I knew as soon as I dialed the number that I was not going to get a response that was sincere. I was going to get some drafted, comment. This is what we're going to tell the parents when they call and complain about this. And that's what I got. And so I went another route and tried to email somebody for help, and I got AI. So pretty dissatisfied with that, and it takes a lot for me even to be sitting here, obviously, or to send emails to complain. I have to be really pissed off in order to get to that point. There's one other thing that I wanted to just address, and I don't know all the details about it, but like, it's regarding our gym teacher position at Carrie Ricker. Mr. Cohen was an amazing gym teacher, and Mr. Stanley's an amazing gym teacher. Mr. Cohen, from what I understand, and like I said, I don't know the details, he wanted the younger kids. Mr. Stanley had seniority, so he got the younger kids. Totally understand it. It's fine. Mr. Cohen didn't want to go up to the middle school. Well, I go to the middle school open
I'm
house
sorry.
yesterday.
I don't mean to interrupt you, but can you refrain from using teachers' names?
Sorry.
You probably
Well, I guess I'll
forgot.
be done with it.
And
I feel like that could have been resolved because that said teacher is now at the middle school and we don't have anybody at the elementary school. So we lost a good teacher that maybe if they had communicated and everybody sat down and talked about it, a resolution could have happened before a really good teacher left. I guess is my point. I'm sorry for bringing up names. So I guess if you guys want your budget to pass, you need to let the parents back in the school. You need to stop treating us like we're the enemy. We're not. I want to vote for your budget. I do. It isn't about the money. It's because you guys aren't listening. We don't want our kids to be their stuff taken from them at school, or the teachers to be losing stuff, or to be losing teachers. We don't want any of that touched. What we want to go away is unnecessary administration. Here. You guys are expecting these teachers to do a job that 2 people should probably be doing. And they're just toughing it out, and they're doing it because those positions are gone, or people left, or whatever. They're picking up the slack. And at some point, you guys need to do a position, eliminate a position and do 2 jobs for a while, like you've been asking your staff to do. Anyway, that's where the problem is. You guys aren't listening. You guys want them to do more with less. You guys need to do more with less. You need to start by replying to your own emails. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments.
Hello, my name is Jessica Cross. I live in Litchfield. I have 3 students, 1 in the middle school, 1 in Sabattis Primary, and 1 in Carrie River. Some things I want to bring up today is our test scores. I called the Maine Department of Education today and stated that I would like to see some test scores for a district. And they told me that everything is public on their website. Of course, we're in a new school year, 23-24, so I only have last year's results and further. But I'd like to share some of them with you because to me, it is very concerning. So according to the Maine Department of Education website, and I have some things listed out and I have some things printed out, some of our test scores for last year over the RSU 4. For English Language Arts, 29.9% of our students are below the state expectations. 19% are well below. That's a total of 48.9% of our students testing below and well below the state average. Nearly half of our students. 34.5% are how much of the state's students as a whole are ranking below. So we beat that number. For math, 39.9% of our students tested below the state expectations, and 26.6% of our students tested well below the state average, for a total of 66.5% of our students testing below and well below the state average. For science, it says suppressed for the well below, the difference between the at and the above and the below and well below. But you can still see that 70.5% of our students are testing below state expectations for science. We're ranking below state average for our test scores, but we're spending the average amount per student as the state. The state average per student pupil spending for supplies, educating, teachers, all the resources that go into educating one student for the state is $18,913. For our district, it's $18,421. So just shy of that average spending. But we're still testing well below state expectations. So to say we're not getting the funding to provide our students with everything they need, I don't believe it. We're spending the state average, but our students are ranking well below. I have some charts here you can get on the Department of Education website. It compares the years 2020 and 2021, that school year, 2021 and 22, 22 and 23. So for English language arts, 71.4% of our students tested above. That's huge in 2020, 2021, 71.4%. The next school year, 2021, 2022, 76.9%. That number went up 5%, testing at or above expectations for English. Last school year, that number dropped to 51.1% of our students being at or above that level. That's a huge drop in 2 years. Let's go over math. Math was 68.2% of our students in 2020, 2021, testing at or above. 2021 and 2022, that number jumps up to 71.3% of our students testing at or above. Last year, that number drops. 33.5% of our students are meeting that expectation or exceeding it. That's disgusting. Science, 2021 and 2022 was all that was available. That number was pretty low. Above average was 35.3%. But last year it dropped to 29.5%. Our administration should be looking at these numbers and supporting their staff to support our students to test better. Our children deserve better. This is our future. I think you can all agree with that. The numbers don't lie. I'm not here to attack anybody personally. Our children deserve better. It's foolish. It's absolutely foolish. A concern that I personally have with the English and language arts is we drop off after sight words. We do our sight words so all of our elementary kids can learn our sight words. They want us to be able to see it and say it to learn to read. Drops off after that. Haven't seen a spelling test since then. My daughter went into 5th grade this year. She thinks house is spelled H-O-W-S. You want to know why? Phonetic spelling. We're teaching our children how to spell words, how they sound, which is appropriate for ages 5 through 7. Going into middle school, phonetic spelling is not it. We should be having spelling tests. House is H-O-U-S-E, but it sounds like H-O-W-S. That's why my 5th grader can't spell house. Where? Sounds like W-A-R-E, right? But we all know it's W-H-E-R-E. Why are our children not learning how to spell? I brought it up at conferences. I asked teachers, where's the spelling tests? I have little brothers that are my children age. 2 of them, they're in private school. Okay, so maybe they have a better education than RSU4 because it's private school. They have spelling tests. They have since kindergarten. I know because I go to my dad's house and he has it proudly displayed on the refrigerator. Because they're proud of the students that they're producing. Are we? Where's our spelling tests? Nobody has an answer. I talk to the teachers. They tell me we do spelling tests. Yep, I can pull it up right here. They don't show me their screen though. They're not looking at anything. Our students deserve better. All around. They deserve the same opportunity that any other student in this state gets, especially when we're funding them the same as the state average. Not a single parent in this district, I can't speak for the parents who don't have children anymore who are just paying taxes because they live here, but the parents in this district do not want their children to fail. They want them to succeed. And with that comes with making sure that they have the tools they need to succeed, which means making sure the school is getting the budget they need for these children. But they're not going to pass the budget as long as we're not allowing them to be a part of the school, like Patty said. That breakdown is there. You can see it. You can see it when parents show up to these meetings and they get dismissed. We all want what's best for the students and the teachers in this district. We want to be there. We want to approve what money is needed, but we also want results. We want our students to get what they need out of this education system. And I think that seriously needs to be looked into. The numbers are just wild to me. I can't believe it. I can't speak to specifics on math. I know that there's a lot of students in the district struggling. We can see that. I can just say what I've experienced personally with English is the spelling issues. But across the board, these things need to be looked at. The data is there for admins to use. Go on the Department of Education. You can compare, you can run any report. You can compare the district to any other district, to the state. You can look at the education of the teachers. You can look and see how many of our teachers have been here for a significant amount of time or are new. How many of them are underqualified, overqualified? You can run all sorts of reports. You can find everything available to you. These are the reports that need to be looked into by administration to see where the problem areas are, because it's not just we're not supporting our teachers, we're going to butt heads in the hallway. And no, the numbers are there too, in addition to the feelings, and we need to look at the numbers, because right now we're dropping the ball for our students, for our kids. We need to do better. It's not acceptable. So I plan to see how this year goes. I've been made some big promises from admin that things are going to improve. We're taking accountability for what we're doing, and we're going to move forward and have a better school year. So I'm really hoping that when the 2024 numbers come out that we're improving. But so far I'm just seeing major drops. If you can see the chart, the red is where we're below. It jumps in the new year. That's this year versus the last year's. It just dumps. There's no excuse for it. That's all I have.
Thank you for your comments. Is there anybody else for comments, public comments?
I have a parent that's coming, but not quite here yet, sent over a Google Doc. Am I allowed to read that? He asked that I do.
So as long as you don't use
Release the
any
name?
teachers or students' names.
Would you like me
then-
to state the name of the parent who sent it?
Are you speaking on their behalf?
I'm speaking for what they sent to me in a Google Doc.
So
He's on his
I guess
way.
I defer to you if you feel comfortable, or
Do you think he'd feel
could
comfortable?
submit it.
Yep, he'd feel comfortable. I'm sorry?
yeah, or you could have it just submitted to us.
I think he kind of wants I can leave the name out if it keeps it from being public comment, but I think he kind of wants it to go. So I'm just going to read it because it's not my words. 5 kids in 4 different schools. We have had the pleasure of the RSU4 experience at every school for 12 years now. Many examples of incompetence astounds me. Can't spell kids' names correctly. Can't get anyone to return an email in a timely manner. No middle school baseball coach until week or two before season. Buses are a joke at my job. Who from RSU4 is going to do my job when me and my wife are doing yours? I could go on and on, but I won't. I never hear any ownership or accountability for the mistakes made here. Where are the apologies for screwing up my kids' education? If you are a business in the private sector, you would be out of business. You don't look happy, your employees aren't happy, and your customers are PO'd. Your people aren't leaving their jobs, they are leaving their leadership. Now we have all these people in new roles. I get that everyone has to start somewhere, but now our kids are on the job training test bodies for your new hires. There's a group in Litchfield trying to leave, and you are making a good case for them. I won't vote yes, and will encourage people I know not to approve any budget until there are different faces sitting at the table. The superintendent needs to be the first one to go, but I consider all of you at the table to be leadership of the RSU4 team. Well, your team sucks. If any of you think you are doing a good job, then you are wrong. In the real world, you have to own your results. Your results suck. People who can't produce are either terminated or they resign. I encourage all of you to co-sides the letter. Again, another parent concern.
Okay, thank you. Any other public comment today? All right, we will move on to our old business on the agenda. 3.1, to approve the 2024-2025 budget. We don't have an amount yet, so I don't know how you were going to do this, Katie. You have a presentation for us to go over
Yes,
the
so-
new amount?
Yes, because we have some reductions since the last time, so I thought we'd just go through it again.
Okay.
And then, once we have a number, if there's any changes to what we're doing, then we'll have to take a recess again. Or if this amount's approved, we'll be ready to go. So similar to what we did last time. Okay, so, remember, I have the clicker. So just to review, take the mic out of the stand. Just to review where we were as of July 10th. So this is what we're working with right now. Obviously being mindful that we have not had a budget approved. So at that time, we were at a 5.6% increase. Then you can see this was the tax impact on that. And so how we always do our taxes is by town. We list what the state contribution is, what the required local share is to get that state contribution, what the additional local share is, what's approved for adult education and school lunch, and then you get the totals. So you can see at that time, taxes from the towns were up $705,152, and then that was the impact. So just this overview is kind of like what has happened. So you can see that our budget was at $23,377,580. It didn't pass. And then we went to the June 26th board meeting and we had a new budget. And then on July 10th, the public added back in money that the board had reduced on the floor. That brought our budget to $22,785,119. And that budget did not pass. So things that we did administrative changes. We took the adult ed position, athletic director position, and made it a 50% split, which it had been previously to when we went to a full-time AD, which was 2 years ago. We have the middle school principal assuming middle school athletic duties, and just so, because the question came up, how much would that be? So the stipend starting July 1st would be $8,000. It's being prorated, so it's $7,000. The Carrie Ricker, Libby Tozier assistant principal position was eliminated, and we added the teaching principal from Libby Tozier, and they're receiving a stipend of $20,000. Then the board made requests, so we were going to go over some of this. So we reviewed attrition figures, seeking savings. So this is leavers against replacers. And then we also reviewed budget expenditures again to see if there's anything that we pre-purchased, can we reduce funds. We looked at, there was a question on substitute support and rates of pay. And we were asked about ED 279 staffing. So starting with the first one, when we looked at the salary benefits, we believe we can reduce $50,000. We still have some moving parts there with hiring and so forth, but we feel comfortable reducing $50,000 from that. We also looked at fees and dues and fees, and we reduced those $2,000 now that we've shifted from assistant superintendent to curriculum director. So we went through the fees again and reduced that. So we're looking at a $52,000 decrease from last presentation. We explored substitute support, and we pay $100 daily for regular substitute. If they're certified, I'm going to need numbers because I don't have them right in front. 110. When we did some research, we probably need to be more at $125 a day. We cannot afford to go straight to 125. So what we believe, as Samantha did a nice job of kind of looking at history, affordability, we probably can ramp that up to 110 and feel we can manage that with what's budgeted. And then next year we can talk about whether we increase that line to get to the 125. But we believe we can do that increase. The ED 279 staffing was asked, so that is our funding formula. And I did talk again to the Department of Education Finance just to make sure that I had all the information correct. They sent me a great PowerPoint, and I'm going to put this in minutes so that people can also see it when our minutes come out. But I'll also send it to board members so you can go through it. I'm not going to go through it tonight, but it just kind of explains how this formula works. So just real quick, because I know it can get in the weeds. Nicole and I were going through it and get kind of caught in the weeds. Just a reminder that this is a funding formula that distributes the funds that the state has available to all the districts. So it was created to say, what is that equitable, create equity among our districts by saying, this is what the ratios should be per span. This is the ratios for nurses, ratios for principals, ratios for health, ed techs, librarians, for your general ed students. Okay, so this first page, which I think, Scott, you're referring to, is our staffing. It doesn't include our special education staff. It's our general ed. And what this first page does is it calculates things to determine what our per pupil amount is, so that when you go to the second page and you have all the weighted, it's taking that per pupil and then putting it against these different weights. And all the districts have the same weights. It's just what is their total is going to be different based on what they have for staffing. So as I talk to the state, I think what is clear is this isn't saying this is what each district needs to provide a education. This is what we fund to essentially help you meet the learning results. Local decision is what else do you have to support it, okay? So I'll give, for example, teachers. So you can look where it says, anybody can pull these up. These are all public. These are all public. You can look up that, what is our EPS FTE? So what is the state determining based on the number of teachers we have, based on the number of students we have in each grade span? It calculates based on that funding model, not this is what you should have, okay? So it's saying 77 teachers and 77.44, okay? That's it. So our actual is 92. So what it does is it says at 77.44, you would receive $5,408,844. And what they do is they take our 92 staff members and they run what level of experience they have and what level of salary they have. So that's how it's kind of put together. It's based on where our teachers land on their steps and experience, and that gets calculated. So every district, that's what they do. They look at your own staff. And then, because we have 92 out of the 7744, it's 80%. 84% is what is the 77.44 of 92. So we receive 4,552,949. Now, it's in the calculation. It's not we receive that. It's in a formula calculation that gets to the bottom number, which is what do we get per pupil, against the other factors in the funding formula, to then come up with a total. And then, as I've explained to you before, they take the total, they take our towns, and they determine enrollment first. And so of that total, they determine Litchfield's enrollment is this percent, Sabattis' enrollment is this percent, and Wales is this percent. And then they divide up that total to say, of that percent, this is what each town is allocated. Then they go to evaluation, which is a 3-year evaluation. And as they remind us, the DOE doesn't do the 3-year evaluation. It's the main revenue source that does. And so each town's evaluation, multiplied by the mill rate, decides how much the town is going to pay of that portion that they were assigned. And then the difference is what we receive for state contribution. So you can read all this, and if you have questions, there's a lot of good information, and I'll make sure that on our budget page, I'll put the ED 279 presentation, okay? So if people want to look it up, I'll put it there. So that was to kind of answer your question on that. So some of the areas that were lower is clerical, library techs, and librarians. So there's some areas that we're getting more from the state because we have less, and some that we're getting less from the state in the calculation because we have more. So I want to make sure, Scott, that we went through that for you. But I'll make sure this is all posted. So you can see from here, it's going in and out, sorry. Okay, so as I shared last time, we did the administration changes, which was $140,000 savings. Then we also increased the fund balance use to $600,000, which is a direct impact on taxes. And then we did the change in replacers versus leavers, the dues and fees, and we don't recommend any more adjustments to sublines or to our facilities and maintenance. So looking through everything else, we don't recommend anything. It's hard if you go too tight in a budget and an emergency comes up or something. For example, I will share with you, which happened after our meeting, is we had an influx of English language learner students, and where they are in their language acquisition and where we're assessing them, they are required to have a teacher that is certified in ELL. So we had in the budget an Ed Tech 3 position. And so part of when we looked at the savings of leavers versus replacers, we have put that position at a teaching position. I have to commend Shelley Mogul has been reaching out to other districts. Are there other people that might need another half? Are there people who have a half that we could share? So we're trying to look at all the resources so we can make sure these students are getting what they need and what they receive by law. So that's a perfect example of sometimes you're not sure. If we had a sudden special ed student that was an out-of-district placement and we suddenly have to fund that, if our budget's too tight, we couldn't respond to making sure that student receives what they need. So it's a hard balance of making sure we have money there in case we have things needed for our students or for our buildings or things that happen, and not be too tight, but yet tight enough. So we feel comfortable we're being tight enough, but not too tight. What does that mean? That brings the budget total to a 4.88%. So, and then the impact on taxes. So now we're talking about an overall increase to taxes of $443,000 divided by the 3 towns based on their percentage. And then you can see the reduction now, Litchfield, for a $100,000 home value assessment. This is an annual increase. Litchfield would be $40.98. Sabattis would be $52.20, and Wales would be $27.83. So that's the reduction that we are proposing. And our new budget. So our new budget, whoops, I gotta go, oh, I'm going the wrong direction, sorry. How do I go backwards? Okay, wrong button. So the new amount to the budget would be $22,631,119. And then when you sign the warrants, the adult ed warrant is back there, on there. You don't have to approve that. It would be part of your call for vote. You don't vote for that separately. Okay.
Questions for Katie?
Sorry, Matt, if I don't look to the right, I got to force myself to look over here. Well, I want to make sure I'm not my right, my back isn't to you the whole time.
And I know, oh gosh, there it goes.
I know.
I don't know like any changes for this kind of budget, but I really do think that the board should consider for the next year's budget the substitute pay. I mean, put it at 120, put it at 150. Like, I think, that's been consistent across the board is that our teachers and staff need additional support. And I think substitutes is a great way to kind of bridge that. I do know last year, several conversations at the middle school, because that's where my kiddos were until today. But I know there was days that the principal was in a classroom. There was days that a teacher had 3 classrooms in their classroom. So I think we really should consider that in next year's budget for sure. You want this one? Are you fixing it?
He's going to help fix it.
I agree. I think we should increase our sub pay. I know in Lewiston it's $125 if you're just coming in and doing a classroom, and I know it's $225 if you're certified and you're doing a long term. So that makes a big difference. So Katie, if you said a minute ago that you were going to you were thinking of doing it 110.
Yes.
So would that be just, that's not long-term?
Right. It would be 110, and then we would look at the adjustment differential for the certified.
Okay.
Maybe we broke it for real. Can I go?
Go ahead, Laura.
So also, I have some questions because like and I guess maybe I was only partially listening, which was my fault too, but, the 279 was just teacher, you said 92 teachers.
Yes.
Okay. And then on this, salary request that cost me personally $137 to obtain and 7 hours of work. So thank you for that. There's salaries that were not, within that scope too. So that's not within the 92 of the 279.
This is the general ed teachers.
Okay. So that's cost center like 1, 2,
Cost center 1.
center 1. Okay. So
I would
then-
have, I'd have to verify, Laura, because I don't want to talk
Yeah.
out of turn. I would
Yeah.
have to verify the 92. I think it's cost center 1,
Okay.
but I'll verify that and I'll send it to you.
And then maybe just the quick pivot table I did out of that spreadsheet that came because it was broken down by cost center. There's some that kind of were concerning that maybe they didn't have enough in them for the next year. And I know like people have changed since then. So I can just maybe send those to
Yeah,
Sam.
if you have
Yeah.
questions, yeah, because, majority of our salaries are set by collective bargaining
Right.
agreements. So yes, absolutely send it if there's one you're like, this looks,
Yeah, no,
off.
because I just did those compared, and I took all the lines of the budget and put those in, and I was like, oh, those look like maybe they're under a little bit too.
Right.
Somewhere under, somewhere over. So,
yeah,
but then it's changed since this too. So,
right. And, it varies on if they're year-round, not year-round, the number of hours. So yeah, there's a lot of variables. But yes, just send your questions to her. Sure.
Chris,
I don't know. There's really a lot of variables because this was their salary, right? Like,
Right, but like I've been asked, why does this person make this, another person make this? Well, one is year-round, one is not year-round. One works a certain number of days, and somebody else works a different day. So salaries aren't, like, it's not all calculated on the exact same number. Does that make sense?
I think we were probably talking two different things. What
Oh,
you're saying
sorry.
makes sense, but yeah,
Okay.
thank you.
No, sorry.
go ahead.
Just trying to
Kristen.
clarify.
So I would love for the board to reconsider adding back in the field trip piece. Now that we have these savings and we've heard loud and clear that folks don't want things taken away from students, and I think our students have had so much taken from them, I would like to see that number put back in.
Do you have a number?
I think
know,
it
I'm
was
going to
like
that. I'm going-
2,400 or something like that.
That's
It
what I'm
was-
going to go back to right now.
It might have been 29. I don't have my binder.
That's all right. I'm pulling it up. So what we had for field trips was 6,900 plus the 7, right? So 13,900. So it was 13,900.
So I'd like to see 13.9 put back in.
What field trips were those? Where were those field trips from? Like that 7,000 that was reduced originally.
Yeah. Do you want to speak to it? We are going to Farm Day, just so people know. We are going to go to Farm.
So I can give you an example, like the first and second grade students at Sabatis Primary that attend Maine Wildlife Park. So those funds were used to pay for their admission into the parks. So what we had done this year was added a little bit of money into the budget for field trips for equity, because not every grade was taking a field trip like that. So we tried to, the 13.9 that Katie's referring to was an amount that represented, in the younger grades anyway, having a grade level field trip per grade. And I'm
So
not sure
by
the destination of the other trips or what other schools did. I just know Abigail went to Maine Wildlife Park.
So removing the 7,000 would not allow grades 1 and 2 to go to Maine Wildlife Park.
Doing the 7,000 was a cut to reduce the amount of field trips. I think we had reduced it in half when we brought it to the board initially. I'm trying to recollect that meeting a few months ago. It feels like we brought forward the full cut, and then I think it was you opted to put back roughly half of what we had suggested for a cut, and then we were going to leave it to the administrator's discretion to decide how they were going to use that those monies. And then when we came back again, it was reduced in the full amount.
So the 13.9 was reduced, or the 7? It was 7. So it's 6,900 is in now.
No.
It was originally reduced,
You first
From-
reduced it by 7. Sorry, go ahead.
yeah, by 7, so it was brought down to 69. And then it was removed again, further.
But then we're going on Farm Day, so that's back in.
Well, what
Guess
we
I'm like-
talked about is the things that were in district that didn't cost money, we would
Yeah.
continue to do. It was when we went out and we had to pay fees and so forth like that.
So that would maybe be helpful that it was like, it seems like it's just Maine Wildlife Park. Because like other groups, I know like French was here last year and
Right, those aren't. right.
FBLA. Yeah, was
Yeah.
here and they raised their money, right?
Mhm.
And so like there's still opportunity, but if it's Maine wildlife, like if it was, I don't know how far out, I would think field trips for the year were kind of planned now, or do they just like, hey, in October we're going to take one? Like, I don't know how that works.
Yeah, they plan. They work as a school. Like when we put that money in, we were trying to be equitable to have every grade go somewhere. So they would be planning that. Like if the money
Yeah,
were
so
there,
then
they would be planning it.
Okay, so for the administrators for helping of adding that back in, I guess what does each grade would like to have planned for a field trip for this year?
I don't know if they've even discussed.
Right.
I'm looking out about. I don't think they've had a discussion on that because the money was cut. So I hate to put them on the spot.
So then are we saying like, Christy, I guess, are we saying put the 13, 14, 15,000 in and then what do they get out of, like, are they going to be able to plan something this year this close, or can they put together, can you leave it out and then they can say every grade has these scheduled for the next year, so then can we put in 15,000 to cover these 10 field trips and every grade gets a field trip out of the town? Do you know what I mean? It just doesn't.
Yeah, I think if we put money in, they would be able to plan a field trip from now until June. Because it's for this whole school year. It's not just the calendar year. So they probably wouldn't have any. They probably wouldn't have a field trip in September or October. But I think every grade level could have something. I mean, they typically take their field trips, in my experience of only having up until 7th grade, but it's usually like April, May, June when most of the field trips happen. So I don't think it's too late.
I just wonder with a bunch of new staff and all of those things, if it's able to kind of even be a thing this year, if it's in there, but I don't know.
I would honestly personally think so. And I think and this is not even asking for them to do more, is making sure that the trips that they're taking are aligning to what's being taught in the classroom. So they're not just going like, oh, we're going to go to Funtown. Like, no, we might go to the ocean because we're studying this in our science class. So it's that learning that happens outside of the classroom. And like I said back when we were looking at this line item, there are lots of children in our district that field trips are their only opportunity to be able to learn outside of the classroom. And I think when it comes to thinking about a whole child and giving kids as many experiences as possible, I think we're doing a disservice by taking it away.
Go ahead, Diane, and then you're next for her.
Having been in the classroom, I know the Portland Symphony was one of the things that fourth graders always did. So that's another field trip that benefits our kids. So I would like to see them do that.
Yeah, thank you. I just don't know. I don't have like a list of requests. I don't have a list of, I know like people that have come and stood in front of us and asked for permission to go places. And like, I know personally I don't even know. I think my kids went on a field trip or two, but I honestly probably couldn't tell you where they went, but I know that they did go places, but besides where they raised money for themselves. But yeah, I think it would be nice to have a list of places that people were asking for a field trip on too. So that would be helpful.
Okay, Robbie.
Yeah, I know in the past with my kids, they went to the Maine State Museum, they went to the State House, it was all curriculum lined, they went to the Art Center in Portland, they went to the Symphony, they went, I think they even did field trips to certain businesses, so I think field trips are important for the kids to see outside of the district. So I would be in favor of putting the money back for field trips, because I think sometimes some kids don't get a chance to go. All the kids don't get a chance to go to the, to the State House or to the museum, the Maine State Museum, or, they've gone to the Maritime Museum is another one that they went to. And those things are all, I think, important things for kids to see.
Yeah, I can tell you 10 years in the district, my kids have not gone to any of the state, anything, the museum. I think the museum's still closed, or maybe it's opening. It's been closed for a bit because they've repaired it, but my kids have not been to the State House or the Maritime Museum or any of those places through the school wall. But those would be great opportunities, I think, for them.
Go ahead, Doug.
I had a couple of questions. What didn't really have much to do with that stuff. I'm kind of shifting gears a little bit, but I kind of got lost in the shuffle a little bit with all the hiring and everything from last time. I was just curious, like, what open positions we still have in the school, if you have a list of that, so I can kind of write it down real quick. And then I had a couple other questions to follow that.
I'm going to the, district-wide, we have the one flex bus driver position. At the high school, we're still looking, school-based clinician, but we are looking at contracted service for that. So we may have a contract for that this week, so that would come off. At Oak Hill Middle School, we're looking for a couple of ed techs.
A couple,
So
like
there's,
two.
we have 2 ed tech 3s and 1 ed tech 2. Then at, as brought up earlier, Sabatis Primary, Carrie Wicker and Libby Tozier, PE teacher. We do have a long-term substitute in that position right now, but that has been advertised. Then at Carrie Wicker, we're still looking for an LPN. That went on Indeed again this week. Also health assistant, so if you have an EMT license or an LPN. So trying to do more with that. We're looking for a Title I math interventionist, although we have some things, we're working on that. We hired not officially, the Ed Tech 3 librarian. We think we do have a candidate for that. That will be probably finalized tomorrow. There were emails today on that. And then a special ed resource teacher at Libby Tozier. And then we thought we had a Sabatis Primary one all set to go, and that fell through. So we're still working on that. Special ed.
Resource. So that's an ed tech as well?
No, those are teaching positions.
Those are teaching
Mhm.
positions. Okay. And those are all of the current openings that we
Mhm.
have at the
Correct.
school. Okay.
Yeah, you can check this on, I mean, if people are watching, you can check this regularly. I try to do it every other day or so, just as things come up to make sure people see what's on, what's off. Like the librarian one will probably come off tomorrow. So I'm trying to do that so people really can be up to date.
Okay.
Why are some of them highlighted yellow?
Those are the new ones. Trying to this is new.
Okay.
And then when I do it again, I take the highlight off, and if I add one, I add the highlight.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
My other follow-ups were
Sure.
ed techs are cost center 2, correct?
Yes.
That's where okay.
Unless they're Title I, and then they're grant funded. But these,
Okay.
yes.
Grant and then cost center 2. So only the middle school needs ed techs.
Right.
We have
Samantha's
plenty
trying to
together.
clarify something.
Okay.
Her mic isn't great,
We also have a kindergarten ed tech position that is in cost center 1.
but it's not an open position.
That one's filled, but it's in cost center 1, and that's because they're a teacher, probably or it's
Because
just-
they work with students that are in the regular instruction program, not in
Okay.
a special education program.
Okay, so they're in regular one. Okay,
Yeah. But the ones that are open are cost center 2,
they're in cost center 2.
Mhm.
Okay,
except for the librarian.
okay, okay. I'm gonna take a minute to think about my thoughts first.
Okay.
Anybody else have any comments or questions? Go ahead, Diane.
Getting back to the putting that money back in for field trips. Laura said something about her kids not going. I do know my last 5 years, there were every year, like it would come March, it would be a freeze. So we're kind of stuck where we can't do a field trip. We would do local
What does that
field
mean, a
trips.
freeze? Sorry. In
That
March?
means a budget freeze, and we could not spend any funds, so that means we could not go on a field trip out of district. We could go in district, so we would go to Smithfield Plantation, which was in Litchfield.
Mhm.
But anything out of the district, we didn't go on because it was too costly.
And that exceeded the budget, the allowed, because So my thought a little bit is like that, you know, the eighth graders when they raise money and the French club and the
FBLA.
Thank you. And so it's not that they couldn't go on field trips. They planned it. And I think some of that was very resourceful for those kids too. I get that you can't have second graders out there trying to raise funds for it all the time either. But what my thought is that that cost $20,000. So the other thing of like 14,000, I just think if it was a better plan that we want to go to the Maine Wildlife, the first and second graders want to go to Maine Wildlife Park, great. It's going to cost $10,000. I don't know putting 14,000 back in there. If we're going to modify the number, I don't know it's worth it to modify the number and do all the paperwork and things. I do think that kids should go on field trips often, and I think learning outside of the district is great as well. I don't know that even really funds it.
So, all right,
But
so
then
we
if
looked
you're
at
going
like
to-
what is not, like what doesn't have fees is more feasible. And then looking at our transportation lines to see if we have the affordability to transport. Those all play a factor. And so if somebody came and said, we really want to go to the Maine State Museum, it's connected to this, it's not, there's no fee involved. Do we have transportation to get there? I mean, that was a challenge last year, is buses, even getting to field trips, we didn't have buses available. So there was a lot of factors going in the last year. But I know what you're saying, which is if next year, you know, you had a list of the field trips and this is the cost, which of these are going to be funded by fundraising and which are going to be funded by the district?
Or taxpayers, right?
Right. By the taxpayers. So, which also are the parents paying for, yeah. So, I mean, right.
Right.
So, right. Other districts, it sometimes PTO has raised money for the field trip.
Yeah.
So it's a variety of things. But I think what you're saying is, yes, we support field trips. We would like to know what those are so it's more transparent. They're going here and it's costing this much. What we tried to do in this budget is just recognize we need to increase the field trip lines to make sure everyone had opportunity. That
'Cause
was
we
the
did.
thinking that went into it. Wasn't like we got all these requests. It was more opportunity.
And I think that's great. I think that would be great for I just think it would be very challenging to kind of get all of that on top of everything else kind of planned this year to put in this budget. I don't think saying we're going to put 14,000 back into the field trip line is going to make the budget pass, but I don't think it would make it fail either. But I think that would be helpful to have that. If we, I mean, I am fine putting 15,000 in for that, but the bus and transportation lines didn't decrease at all for taking that out either.
It was all the fees, right? It's the cost to go on the field trips.
Was what that
Right.
13.9 was.
Sam-
was like
Samantha, did we
admission and
reduce
things.
transportation lines? No, it
Okay.
was really the dues and fees to go on the trips.
The buses are included in that.
Right. Well, the
Well, no,
busing, we
the
would
buses
look,
were in the transportation line,
Correct.
she said. So like those
Yes.
didn't reduce. So it wasn't, so again, it's not like we're going to allow these, I mean, if every grade goes on a field trip and 2 grades at a time maybe go, it's not like, okay, that was going to take, we have this list, we're
Mm-hmm.
reducing it. So we know, and I'm just using the Maine Wildlife one because that's the one, and the Portland Symphony. So we know that takes 2 buses, so then that was also reduced. Like, so that wasn't taught, it was just the fees that were reduced.
correct. Go ahead,
Do you
Doug.
know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah.
Oh,
okay.
sorry, Laura,
So
I thought
I
you were
just,
done.
so if it does get put back in, sorry, I'm still going.
Go ahead.
If it does get put back in at the 13.9 and we're going to modify paperwork tonight, I would like to do the substitute teacher as well.
Like to get an increase to the substitute teaching lines.
Yes.
Okay.
I think that we should go back to the 5.6% for the budget from July 10th. And I think we should take the 100,000 that got cut from that one to this one and put it in cost center 1 and then send out a survey asking the teachers what they could spend, what they prioritizing what they would like to spend the $100,000 that got put back in to help them get through their school year this year, so that maybe we can address some of the parental concerns about the teachers not having funding or support, and put it on the teachers to try to decide where that $100,000 that we cut out goes, instead of trying to just keep cutting the budget lower. I think that a survey would be helpful to have the teachers have a little bit of say into that money. We keep cutting and discussing this stuff, and I feel like people keep giving me the comments that we're not hearing what they're saying and we're not supporting the teachers. I think the best way to illustrate that we're supporting the teachers is having a survey that the teachers are trying to address concerns. Maybe they would like software in their classrooms, or maybe another ed tech would be helpful that for some teachers because they're newer or something. I think that I would like to start doing that, because I keep hearing a lot of feedback that it's not the budget being lower, it's the fact that they want the quality of education to go up. So I think that trying to show that we're actively supporting the teachers instead of ignoring it and discussing all of these numbers all the time is, I guess, my suggestion. So to reiterate, I think we should go back to adding the $100,000 and starting with that in cost center 1, and then having that survey go up so that the teachers can decide if a field trip is something they want on their priority list. If we get enough that want to do a field trip, instead of us deciding it for them, they can decide it. If they want another ed tech, if they think substitutes will help them get through their school year this year, I think these are all things that the teachers probably know better than we do sitting out here. And I want them to be able to have some sort of voice to be able to say that, besides going through the channels or keeping whatever. I think that having an anonymous survey where every teacher in the district can write down a list of 3 things that would help them the most. And then I would like to see that as a school board, and then we can go through their list and decide what we want to support on their list, instead of just assuming that they all want field trips and whatever else is going on. I don't know.
Sam, can you tell us how much money would need to be in there to have the substitutes at 125? Because I know you calculated that out.
It's an estimate at this point, but it's approximately $20,000.
And so, are we still discussing? The other kind of challenging point, I think Doug has great ideas with that as well. I think the other challenging point is time. So like we kind of have to come to a number tonight, and we have to go to the public, and we have to do all these things. And so I think that, bless you, could be a challenge with time. I think in just 4 months, we're going to be talking about 2025, 2026 budget, right? And so I think creating that budget committee is a strong recommendation that I have as well, to do all of these kind of preparations so that it's all done and we only go through this once next year would be fantastic. But I don't know, too, asking teachers to do this on top of starting school and all those pieces, I don't know is a feasible ask either, but I don't know a lot of things today, but so I think for the board discussion, I think kind of putting a number down for tonight to send to the public that supports it is kind of where we need to get back to as well. So if it is putting in the 14,000 and 20,000, so 34,000 adding back in and highlighting those opportunities for this is what we can offer right now with what we have, and then we're having some bigger discussions and creating a committee and doing these things for the following year. But it's also going to increase the dollar. So are people voting no because they can't afford can you go to that other slide of the $100,000 homes? So are they voting?
The July 10th one?
Sure.
Yeah.
Are they voting no because they can't afford on a $100,000 home in Litchfield? They can't afford paying 63. Is it 63?
Yes.
more dollars, or $82 or $49 more a year.
So, again, when we're in the high school, we've had multiple people stand up that said that we're not listening and that it's not the number, and and then they've actually increased cost center 1 in our presence and decreased the other ones to make a point. But I think the point that we keep coming back to, and I don't know, maybe I'm just, is that we're not listening. And I feel like addressing that by trying to hear as much as we can from the staff and the faculty, and then trying to address their concerns instead of just assuming what they need, is probably a way to start showing the public that we are listening, so that we just keep assuming that the public wants all these numbers to go super low. And there are some people in the public that have said that. We've had a parent that said a couple weeks ago that said they wanted 3%, and I wrote that down on the notes, but 3's hard. But the majority of them are saying that it's not the number, that we don't need to get down to 0. They just want numbers, scores to be successful, right? The teachers are the only ones that are going to be able to tell us what would be helpful to get the scores to get boosted in their classrooms, because they're on the front lines.
So I actually asked that
So-
too, like months ago, and there was a teacher from Sabatis Primary that had sent us their suggestions of what would help those get up in an email. But so do you think, and I don't know, for the board too, not just you, Doug, but you're next to me, and you might want to put in a move for that, and that's okay. But would 30,000, 35,000, so the 15,000 for the field trips and the 20,000 for substitutes, would that be a start to that we're listening, or is it not enough?
I guess in counter to this, just kind of having the discussion, I don't think it's the numbers. I think it's the listening to the teachers is what the taxpayers and the parents want us to see, is an active acknowledgement of the voice of the teachers in the classrooms. So you asking me if I think that would be enough, I can't answer that, because that's not what I'm trying to get at. I'm trying to get at, we should be asking the teachers and the staff, do you think that having more substitutes a problem in the classrooms? And I know the administrators can answer this as well, and I think they should be part of this discussion. But I guess what I'm getting at is that my perception of this problem is not the numbers, it's that parents are feeling unheard,
Yeah.
and the parents are assuming that the faculty are feeling unheard, and we need to make them seem like, or not seem, we need to make them heard and make it, so I can't answer that. I think that personally, I would want the number that we had from July, but I think a complete shift should happen where we are actually showing a much stronger active hearing of the staff and the administration for what their needs are, and showing that we're acknowledging that. I think subs and stuff would help. I think putting the numbers and having surveys where the teachers can anonymously start to say that I would like professional development or substitutes, I think that would show more of I'm listening. I'm trying to listen to what they want.
I think I think it's a great idea. For tonight, we have to put a number on there.
Yeah, I agree. We can implement surveys for free.
Yeah.
Okay, that's something that doesn't cost us anything, really. We should have started listening at the beginning of this process, not, at this point in time. I would be in favor of maybe going to a 5% even across the board. But I really do think that we need to look for the future. We can't have 5% every single year over year. What cuts are we going to be making in the future? What's the plan to continue down the road to make sure that we don't see 5% increases year after year after year? And as far as, I haven't spoken about field trips, but I would say I definitely do not want to take away from any enrichment of students. I think everybody deserves a chance to have that experience. But that being said, it is kind of late to be thinking about doing this and putting it back in I would be concerned with just throwing a number in there and not necessarily having it earmarked specifically for field trips and having administrator discretion what those funds are spent on, because who knows what they're going to do with the money. I mean, if it's not going to be field trips, what's it going to be? I think it really needs to be that. And I know there's got to be a lot of places like the wildlife park and the state museum that cost us. Does it really cost $13,000 for a bus for the day? It can't possibly be.
I mean, I just want to remind you that the first budget was at 8%, and I would say there would be staff that said you reduce things from the original budget. Because remember, July 10th is not the original budget. So I'm just, I hear you, and we reduced the budget based on feedback that it needed to be lower, and so we looked at all the different ways that we can lower it.
With all due
So-
respect, the public were looking for reductions in different areas that were actually reduced.
Okay,
And-
Diane had her hand up, so let me.
Having been a teacher in the classroom, I think substitutes is a big thing. If I were to go in and another teacher was out, I might have to split a class, or teachers have to take each other's class. We lose our prep time. The district has to pay, according to contract, for those teachers who lose their prep time. So I think if we could raise the sub pay, that would help eliminate the need for teachers to have to ask for money for having to cover a classroom. So it might save on that side as well. And maybe putting in half of that, like 7,500, to go towards field trips. And I know in the past, when we did a field trip, it had to be educational based. We had to fill out the paperwork. It had to have where you were going, what were the learning results, how did it match, what were the kids going to get out of it. So those forms, I'm not sure if they still fill them out, but I think that's probably something we need to make sure our teachers are doing. So we do know there's an educational background for that. So do they still do that, Katie?
So well, let me answer a question about where does the budget go if you put in the money for the sub and the field trip? So you said it was at 5.04. That's what I was asking, 1 or 4. So it would be at 5.04 if you put in the field trips and the substitute.
That's fully funded field trip?
What if you just put half of the field trip? At least it's some.
5.01. So you get 35,000 put back in at a 5.04 increase. Final increase. I'm not going to go try and compare.
Right.
Or you get a 5.01 with a
How much is the total?
27.5. I just want to make sure I'm doing the right
Yeah.
number. I don't do math.
The amount for field trips was 13,900, and so I just cut it in half. 6,900 is what, if you left that in, would be 5.01.
So what? So 16. It would be.
Yeah, so just under 27,000 is what you'd be adding back in.
Okay, just under.
From what we.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. So I want to take a pulse here. Thumbs up, thumbs down on who's leaning towards the 5. Doug said 5.6, right? So he went back there. So I have a 5.6 on the table. I have a 5.04 and a 5.01. So let's start with the 5.6. Who is looking that they're going to be willing to approve of 5.6? Thumbs up, thumbs down. Ready?
Can I ask a clarifying?
Sure.
So I know what I'm voting for.
Yeah.
So if we were to be in favor of that, it would be putting $100,000 back into cost center 1 for the discretion of.
So I don't know that we have those actual details. I think that's what Doug was trying to hope for, and it would definitely go into cost center 1. Any funds back in? So yeah, 5.6 with the cost center 1 receiving the appropriate increase.
So all of these increases will increase cost center one only.
Sam, can you confirm if the field trips are all in cost center one?
Field trips, yes, those are in cost center one. Sublines are spread throughout, with the majority being in cost center one. So I think what we would probably do, just to make our business move smoothly tonight, pardon me, is to put it in cost center one, remembering that we do have, with the permission of the board, the 5% between cost centers at the close of the fiscal year if we needed to make an adjustment. But again, cost center one is where a majority of those sublines are expended.
That's helpful. Thank you.
Okay. Good
Is there a
question.
difference? Is there a difference between teacher substitutes and bus driver substitutes? Or are they the same pay? There's a difference? Okay, thank you.
Okay. So who, thumbs up, thumbs down? Do you have one more question,
I have a
Diane?
question.
Go ahead.
Your subs for ed techs, they don't get pay the same as teachers, do they? Okay.
No.
And so if we went to, are we saying 125? Is that what we're saying? If we went up to 125?
Mhm. Yes.
Yes.
Is that long-term as well?
Yeah, go ahead.
Our long-term rates are actually competitive because we take a first-year BA teacher salary and divide that by the
Okay.
per diem.
That- just wanted to make
Once
sure.
they hit that long-term threshold.
I think this would be a better way to get some subs. 100%.
So really what you're saying is, taking part of the savings that was, and then
Right.
putting for substitutes, yeah?
I think this is going to help teachers.
Okay, Doug?
I guess before we vote, just to kind of clarify again, I don't have my heart set on the 100,000, 5.6. That was just something for me to start the discussion and move it forward. And if I think that the substitute thing will help, and just for the record, I guess for me, it's just I'm trying to open up that discussion about trying to show that we're listening, and by putting our money where our mouth is, that I don't know if that saying applies. Does that apply? Our money where our intention is? I don't know. You guys know what I mean? Am I butchering that? I guess. So point being is I don't feel like we need to vote on the 5.6
Okay.
if you think
You
that
wanna take
that's
that off the
my,
floor?
yeah, that was just me to start
I was
the
just going with the
discussion, so-
3 ideas that
Yep.
were tossed out.
No, I
You wanna
don't.
take that off?
Yeah, we'll take that off. That's fine. Okay.
So now we're going to go with a thumbs up, thumbs down on 5.04 or 5.01. So I will start.
So the only difference is
The only difference is
half of
the half of the field trip funds. All right. 5.04. Thumbs up, thumbs down. Okay. 5.01. Thumbs up, thumbs down. I'd vote for either one. So, it looks like we're pretty close to 5.04. So what do you want to do with that, Katie?
No, what is the amount? Then we can have you vote on the amount. So let's get the official amount
Let's
at
get-
5.04.
Do we need a drum roll?
No,
Ready
I
when
mean,
you are.
I just wanted to say I would support 5.04 with the caveat that we make sure that the money goes where it belongs, please.
Yes,
Okay.
Scott, it will
Thank
go
you.
where it belongs.
Okay. Okay. You're marked. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right, Sam.
So just, I want to make sure I'm super clear. So we're talking about the 13.9 for the field trips and the 20,000 to raise the sub pay.
yes.
Okay. So your general fund total is 22,665,019.
Sorry, could you say that again?
Yep. 22,665,019.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And that's the 5.04
5.04 over last year. Correct.
prior, not including adult ed, right? So this
Or
is
school nutrition,
This is
correct.
before adult ed and school nutrition. Okay, sorry. Did you want to say something? or
No,
want me
that's
to go to Doug?
right. That article for adult ed will still be there. Yes.
Go ahead, Doug.
For me too, I think that it's more than just the money amount. I really do want us to be more active with teacher surveys or something, that we can have results at the board meetings of, even if it's monthly, I would appreciate some sort of teacher. I know they're busy, but a simple like top 2 things that would help you this month or this year, and we can get updates. I want, going forward, I want feedback, and I want proof of the feedback that we're getting from the teachers so that we can show everybody that we are trying our hardest to listen to what the teachers need and trying to address those concerns as we move forward. So I want that. I think that's more important than just the number. Going honestly is so.
Go ahead, Robbie.
Yeah, and I think it's a great number, I really do, but I think the underlying fact is that the community feels that our administration is top-heavy. And I don't think they realize that without administration, teachers have a hard time teaching. Because the administrators are the ones that are in every day taking care of the behavioral problems, making sure the school runs, making sure that things are going the way they should. And from what we heard tonight, it was administration. It wasn't the number, it was administration. So how do we get over that hurdle that our administrators are needed? They're needed by the teachers, they're needed by the staff. By the staff and the students. And I think that's a thing that we have to get behind as a board and say, administration is important, because without administration, schools don't run. But you keep hearing that brought up at community meetings, you hear it brought up at school board meetings, and you hear it brought up at budget meetings. So how do we get over that?
Christy?
I think part of that is perception.
Right.
So I think something that we have heard tonight, and I know it's not a back and forth, but it has been clear in terms of themes of communication from the public, they feel shut out. So I think one thing that we need to consider is perception, because I do believe the majority of this board knows how important administration is, and backs our administration, but we can't control the lived experience that parents are having outside of what we have here. So when we hear those things, I think we need to rethink about our processes to include parents more, so they understand the value of administration. Because when it feels like the doors are closed, then you get defensive and you're like, okay, then what's going on behind those doors and why am I not welcome? So how can we think about, with safety in mind, because it is a very different world in the last 9 months than it was in this community. So how can we take all of those things into consideration, but also realize the value of the partnership? Because schools don't function without parents, parents don't function without schools. And I'm hearing over and over and over again that that's not the lived experience for, even if it's just one parent saying that, that's a concern. So.
All right, so I think we have our number. Yeah, is there somebody who wants to make a motion for $22,665,019?
I do.
Second.
So Diane moves, Chrissy seconds. Now, do I have to read it in this format, or now we read it in that format? Or we vote on the motion first?
Yes. Are they making a motion to approve the 2024?
Correct.
Okay. Yes. Go ahead. Yes. They made that motion. So now it's discussion, and then you take the vote.
We need a motion on 3-1. We need to make a motion on 3-2.
So that was the motion
Okay.
on 3-1.
Yeah.
So now we need to vote.
Yeah.
Okay.
After
so
discussion.
any discussion?
I know
Any
you
further
have.
discussion? I know you have to give it, right? Any further discussion on the 22,665,19? Diane.
The only thing I'm going to say is if we as a board can come together and show that we're supporting the budget, I think the community will see that, and that will help heal our community. I know we started the school year, and I've been at all the schools. I went on the first day when Katie did opening statements for the teachers, and I have to say I've heard a lot of wonderful comments from teachers about how uplifting and how energizing her speech was and how she made the day. So I think that is a very good way to start the school year, and I think that will help only build a better school year. So if we can come together as a board and be that other positive piece, I think we can really make this a great school year.
Okay. Anybody else? All right, I'm going to call for the vote. Jill messed it up tonight because she was my first person in alphabetically. So Jill's absent. So I have Doug.
Yes.
See? Yeah. So we're just doing hands. I just want to make sure we're doing it the right way. All right, show of hands. Everybody in favor of this amount? Unanimous. Thank you.
Now it's just a motion. You don't have to read the whole thing. Unless you would like to.
Well, I really don't want to read all of that.
But he can make the motion.
It is a lot of legalese, and you'll probably drown me out. However, I will at least read the beginning part. So I need a motion. I'm motioning? Or do I?
I'll make the motion.
Thanks, Robbie.
So
I was going to say.
It felt awkward for me to read it and motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, thank you. So this is awkward though, Katie, because now it says I move, right? So I move that the vote entitled "Vote to Call and Approve the Warrants for the Budget Meeting and the Budget Validation Referendum and to Authorize the Notice of Amounts Adopted" be approved in form presented to this meeting, and that a copy of said vote be included with the minutes of this meeting.
Yeah. And Robbie motioned it and Diane approved it. So now discussion and then the vote.
It's the I move that confuses me.
I
Okay.
hear you.
Any further discussion from our board? Okay. Call for the vote. And are we doing roll call or are we doing show of hands?
Show of hands.
Show of hands. All right. Everybody in favor? Unanimous. Thank you. That brings us to our future meetings on the agenda, right? So we have our public budget meeting on September 11th, 6:30 p.m. at the Oak Hill High School.
Mm-hmm.
And then our next two regular board meetings, September 25th and October 9th, 6:30 p.m. here at Central Office. And unless there's any objection.
When's the vote, Katie?
Oh,
And the vote is 24th, 24th. The
Budget
Tuesday
referendum.
before a regular meeting.
yep.
There,
It's right up
there it
there.
is. Thank you.
And is there a mailer going? Like, is there communication out on that?
We haven't gotten that. We usually do something about the public meeting, and then whatever happens there, we try to do something out for that. Similar to what we've been doing.
Something about the public, well, right, and so like that was kind of my comment last meeting. So something about the public meeting
Mhm.
entails a post on the website, social media, and a
Right.
notice out to the towns.
Right. So that this poster has been out on our social media, and then we'll make sure we get out a communication. And yes, the towns are aware of when the votes are.
And do we send a mailing on the public meeting or only on the actual vote?
We've been doing both.
So
Well, last time we did it after the public meeting. Yes. What we're trying to do is, because of the cost of the mailings, we've been trying to make it like a postcard or something, so, and directing people to our website. So we have to make sure we got the website updated with everything that you've decided tonight. So we're trying to lower the costs, because it's, it's close to $1,000 every time we do a mailing. $1,000. So
Right, and what does it cost to keep going to the school and the towns and the shutting down for the day and all of that too, right? So like,
Yeah, exactly. But no, there's costs involved. Yeah, definitely. Hmm.
Can I ask just a favor? Is there
Sure.
a way, I don't know, maybe not on the postcard, but somewhere on the website or the Facebook page where
Hmm.
rather than just putting the increase, you can put the total per town?
Total per town.
Yeah. I mean, those increases are pretty minimal when you look at it. Just, $35, that's no big deal.
Yes,
But
I
it's
think we
by
did include. I
times-
know what you're saying. I think
Times
we
every
included.
$100,000, but that's just the increase. That's not the actual amount. I want to know what is my actual cost going to be?
Okay.
Does that make sense?
No. Clarify for me. Do you mean this $40.98, which is, it's not going to be
Right,
that?
but that's only the increased amount. That's
Correct.
not the total tax burden to the taxpayer.
So you
for
want to know,
$100,000.
like, for a $100,000 home, how much is the taxes for education?
Yes.
Okay. All right. I hear what you're saying. We will check with the towns.
And we could show both, the total and then just the increase this year, but I would like people to be able to, for transparency purposes,
Yeah.
how much is it costing me to fund education in RSU4?
If you're a $100,000 home or whatever. Okay.
I mean, even that, I mean, I'm sure our town managers could answer it better, but $100,000 home, I don't know how many of those even exist anymore, especially with the recent valuations that went through. I mean, I would like to
I'll do
see
two
it-
things. What's the average assessed value? And we'll use that. So if they say the average is 150,000
Yep.
or the 100, then I'll talk to Sharon. We'll work it out
I
with
mean,
the
I
town
can do the
managers.
math,
you're
but
gonna need like a 5x7.
no, I know. I mean,
But,
I
like-
can do the math, but not everybody knows.
What I
these
did
things.
last time is this. I had that
And then you can
little
double it,
graph.
triple it, whatever. Because it
Yeah.
used to be like 100,000, 150, 200,000, but.
But
I
we didn't
think
have
that's
room.
too much. Yeah, on the,
The 100,000 is, I think, is okay, but I do
Yeah.
want to see a total, not just an increase.
Okay. Well, I think what you're asking, what is the mill rate? And of that mill rate, how much is to education? That's different. And I think that's probably more calculating then. But I'll talk to, well, Sharon and I will talk it out, and then
Yeah,
we'll
sure.
contact the other towns about how to best illustrate it. Because there's a lot of variables. Okay. We will, when we adjourn, we have things that, you have things that you need to sign.
Oh, one other point of order, if I may. Is there a reason we left board member comments off the, is it because it's a special meeting?
Yeah, it's special
Is that
meeting.
not we don't have them on special
Correct.
meeting?
Mm-hmm. Yes, that would be true.
I should have got up in the, when I was,
Diane.
I was going to say, is there any way that we could get like newspaper publicity or something where it went out there so people could read it somewhere?
Yes, I can reach out to our reporter.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll make
Maybe
sure
the
things
American
get,
Legion
yeah.
in Sabattis could also put something. I know they have a board there coming into Sabattis.
Yeah, we'll get the message out. Mhm.
Okay. Anything else?
Ooh, adjourned.
All right. Unless there's any objection, meeting is adjourned
At
8:08.
at 8:08.
Thank you.
Thank you.